Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 11th Annual Gloucester Township Police Awards Ceremony. At this time, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Lieutenant Jason Gittens, and I'll be the Master of Ceremonies for today. This ceremony will be a virtual presentation. At this time, I would like to ask all of you to please rise and remain standing for the presenting of colors and the singing of the National Anthem by Gloucester Township Police Officer Investigator David Vanoni.
Detail, Yaten, Hu, Carry, colors. Forward, arch. Mark time, arch. Detail, halt. Peace. Reset. Up.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hail at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fights o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Order up. Right, peace. Forward, arch.
All, please remain standing as Monsignor Michael Mannion delivers the invocation.
Detail, parade,
Good afternoon, awardees, and congratulations for all you've done and for all you've helped. It's a fascinating story I share with you before the prayer about a brand new second lieutenant, very ambitious, wanted to be a general. So one night at the officers' club, the young officer spotted this old general sitting at the bar. He went up and said, "How do I become a general?" The old general answered, "Son, you got to work like a dog. You got to have moral, physical courage. There may be days when you're tired, but you must never show fatigue. You'll be afraid. You can never show fear. You must always be the leader." The young officer was so excited by this advice. "Thank you, sir," he said. "So this is how I become a general." "No," said the general. "That's how you become a first lieutenant. And then you keep doing it over and over and over again." Throughout my career, I've always tried to do my best, think about tomorrow, maybe dream a bit about the future. But doing your best in the present has to be the rule. You won't become a general unless you become a good first lieutenant. The general's name? Colin Powell. Let us pray. Lord our God, we pray that those receiving these awards today will appreciate that they're being honored because they've gone above and beyond the call of duty with purpose and passion rather than just duty. We thank you, Lord, for their courage, their fidelity, their commitment, their service to the people they're sworn to serve. We ask, Lord, that you keep them focused throughout their careers on being the best who they can be today. And tomorrow will take care of itself, regardless of the rank, regardless of the title, especially sometimes doing great things, and nobody might notice sometimes. But that makes no difference. The difference is made because the gift is given from the heart, and the purpose is care, compassion, and love. We ask you, Lord, to bless these men and women today and all their families and loved ones who are part of the experience of what they've done for others. We ask you this, one God, Lord of life, forever and ever. Amen.
Please be seated.
Detail, take seat.
At this time, I'd like to introduce the leader of the Gloucester Township Police Department, the Chief of Police, Chief David Harkins.
Good afternoon, everyone. To begin, I would like to take a moment of silence to remember the 253 line-of-duty deaths of law enforcement officers in 2020. This time, I would ask you to join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. This number is up from 148 line-of-duty deaths that we suffered in 2019. As we honor these officers, civilians, and staff, this great event, I want to first start off by thanking everyone that's been involved in putting this important event together. This event is to honor our officers, our partners, and our civilians who have made such a great impact on our community. I'll start off by thanking President Borden of the Camden County College, Security Chief John Shuck, and all the staff and Camden County College staff members who allowed us to have this important ceremony under these most difficult of conditions. I'd like to acknowledge those who have helped make this day possible. In particular, I want to acknowledge our Gloucester Township Police Awards Committee, the members and the hard work that they put in, the many hours of reviewing the award submissions. The chairman of the awards committee, Deputy Chief Anthony Manazzi, also on there, Captain Brendan Barton, Lieutenant Timothy Kohlmeyer, Detective Sergeant James Clark, Detective Matthew D. Camillo, Detective Thomas Ritz, Dispatcher Kelsey Toomey, and Clerical Assistant Jennifer Shriver. I want to thank them for all the hard work they've done to make these awards possible today. I also want to thank Lieutenant Jason Gittens and the Community Relations Bureau, who organized this special event, who has made it come out, organized it, made it come to be a successful event for all the officers. So in a special way, I want to thank Lieutenant Gittens. I want to thank Mayor Mayer, who was instrumental in setting up this ceremony, and for his unwavering support of the police department, especially during this unprecedented pandemic. There's never been a time during this crisis when I have not been able to reach him and consult with him, and for this, I thank him. I also want to recognize my right hand, Deputy Chief Anthony Manazzi, who is always there to check me and provide me the much-needed advice on any critical issue that comes up. Deputy Chief, thank you. In addition, I want to recognize my command staff, Captain Brian McKendry, Captain Brendan Barton, Captain John Stollsteimer, who have carried out the directives and continue to provide leadership in the face of these difficult times. I thank my command staff for I couldn't accomplish what we've needed to accomplish without their support and leadership. This police department has been able to continue our service mission because of the outstanding leadership provided by the supervisors of this police department. The lieutenants and sergeants have had an instrumental role in keeping our officers safe, to provide leadership and guidance on these great examples of police work that we're about to hear about today. But it is the detectives, the officers, the dispatchers, and the civilian staff who I am most proud of. They are where the rubber meets the road. I can't imagine that anyone could have done it better over these many difficult months, and I am forever grateful for the service and dedication they provide to our community. The reason we are here today is to honor the great police work done by the men and women of the Gloucester Township Police Department and our many partners. We typically hold this event as part of our Police Appreciation Week activities in May. But no one could have predicted what has happened since March 2020. The pandemic struck, and it brought together with it an unprecedented way of having to do emergency services and police work. And I can sit here and say, no one has done it better than the men and women of the Gloucester Township Police Department. The commitment, dedication, and can-do attitude of the members of the Gloucester Township Police Department has left me speechless at times. I'm in awe of the way the department has stepped up to the challenges that we've been presented with. I have never doubted our abilities to handle these challenges. Our officers put themselves on the line every day, and we will continue to do that as we have been called to serve in this capacity. The commitment to service to our community has never shown clearer than it has in the past year. This is why it was so important for us to honor those receiving the awards that they so deserve to get. I want to congratulate all the officers, the dispatchers, and civilians being honored today. It has been humbling to see the work being done here in Gloucester Township. I've never been prouder to serve with the men and women of the Gloucester Township Police Department. And I want to congratulate all the award recipients and thank you all for all the amazing work that you do. At this time, I'd like to introduce Deputy Chief Anthony Manazzi, who will be reading the award presentations for us. Deputy Chief?
A police service citation. Detective Thomas Ritz and Camden County Public Safety Sergeant Kim Snyder. On April 15, 2020, Gloucester Township Police responded to the Camden County Regional Emergency Training Center for a burglary and theft. It was discovered that a suspect unlawfully entered the building, stole various emergency training equipment, and spray painted the building with graffiti markings. After committing these felonious acts, the suspect went across the street and purposely caused additional criminal mischief to a motor vehicle. Detective Ritz processed the crime scene and located significant evidence. It was discovered the suspect stole emergency equipment, causing $35,000 in losses. The suspect also caused damage to electrical equipment by pouring cleaning solution on them and using spray paint to tag distinctive markings. Detective Ritz conducted extensive research and analysis on the graffiti markings and evidence. With the assistance of the Camden County Public Safety Department, distinctive graffiti markings on several public social media accounts were found and used to identify the suspect. On June 8, 2020, the suspect was arrested and charged by GTPD officers. He was remanded to the Camden County Correctional Facility. Congratulations.
Congratulations. Thank you, sir. Congratulations, Sergeant.
Life-Saving Award. Investigator David Benoni, Investigator Joseph Eden, AMR Emergency Medical Technician Michael Stack and Marissa Aquindo, and Highland High School teachers Katie Harper, Christina Durante, Christina Marula, John Senf, Janine Tromater, Todd Shug, and Teresa Blaze. On September 20th, 2019, a 17-year-old student suddenly collapsed during a gym class at Highland High School. Gloucester Township Police were dispatched. The teachers at the school initiated a code Annie, which calls an emergency response team of specially trained teachers to the scene of a medical emergency. Teachers immediately began CPR. The teachers worked together to deliver vital first aid until officers arrived. Once on scene, officers provided a valve mask and supplemental oxygen and took over performing chest compressions. They continued these life-saving measures until BLS arrived on the scene. Officers assisted EMTs getting the student onto the stretcher and into the ambulance. Without the actions of the hero teachers, officers, and EMTs during this medical emergency, this young man would not have survived. Their combined immediate response was essential to his survival. Congratulations.
Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Great job. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations. Great job. Thank you. Congratulations. Stay there, Joe. Congratulations. Well done. Thank you, sir. Good deal.
Distinguished Unit Citation, Detective Sergeant Anthony Massey, Detective Michael Leach, Detective Derek Rambo, Investigator David Benoni, Federal Bureau of Investigations Agent Vito Rosselli. On October 19th, 2019, officers responded to the report of a missing endangered juvenile female. The female reported they were highly concerned about her welfare, as they recently discovered text messages from an unknown male from Texas. Texts were located with the two discussing a plan for her to move to Texas, and many texts were laced with profanity and disturbing. Officers discovered she was in constant contact with the same phone number. They called this number and made contact with a 17-year-old male. Cellular phone pings revealed this individual had recently traveled from Texas to Blackwood, New Jersey. As the investigation continued, it was still unknown this male's intentions and was feared to involve human trafficking. Officers and detectives worked throughout the evening. The FBI was notified and assisted with the investigation. The cellular phone was pinging in the area of Fishers Hill, Virginia. Officers contacted Virginia State Police and requested the area be checked for the female. The Shenandoah County Sheriff's Office located the female a short time later, and she was reunited with her family. Officers remained vigilant during a 16-hour multi-jurisdictional investigation to ensure this young girl was returned unharmed to her anxious family members. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Sergeant. Thank you, sir. Special Agent, congratulations. Thanks. Well done. Thanks for your help. Thanks. Thanks. Congratulations, Dave. Thank you.
Award of Merit, Detective Michael McDonald and Patrolman Stephen Centrone. Distinguished Unit Citation, Captain John Stollsteimer, Sergeant Frank Pace, Sergeant Paul Byers, Corporal Michael Miller, Corporal Nicholas Bersani, Patrolman Joseph Thompson, Patrolman Joseph O'Drain, Patrolman Joshua Ward, and Patrolman Richard Jones. On May 21, 2020, officers were in the Hilltop section of Gloucester Township conducting enhanced patrol in the area. In recent weeks, several vehicle burglaries had taken place. Most notably, the evening prior, multiple weapons were reported stolen out of a vehicle. Officers were heavily patrolling the area when they observed two juveniles on bicycles were circling the area. Officers attempted to stop the youths to ask if they had any information. The two males fled. Minutes later, officers observed the subjects headed into the area of West Collins Court. The two bicycles were found abandoned in a rear alleyway. Canine Zeus tracked to the rear yard of a residence on the street where a shed was located. Officers located one of the stolen weapons on the ground inside of the shed. Multiple officers set up a perimeter in the area. A knock and talk was conducted at the residence where the shed was located. The occupants voluntarily admitted to possessing the other stolen weapon and advised it was concealed in the drop ceiling. The accused juveniles were charged with multiple offenses and admitted to committing 100 additional burglaries within the last year. With determination and teamwork, the officers were able to quickly resolve a dangerous situation. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Congratulations, Joe. Congratulations, Joe. Congratulations, Sergeant. Thank you, sir. Congratulations, Mike. Thank you. Congratulations, Nick. Congratulations, Josh. Thanks, sir. Congratulations, Rich. Congratulations, Steve. Thanks. Congratulations, Sergeant.
Distinguished Unit Citation, Sergeant Frank Pace, Detective Matthew DiCamillo, Detective Dennis Richards, Investigator Joseph Eden, Patrolman Matthew Gray, Berlin Police Department Patrolman Stephen Palma, and K-9 Radko. On August 15, 2019, officers received information that a stolen vehicle was reported to be in the area of Earl Road. Patrol units searched the area and located the vehicle in the driveway of a nearby residence. Units from the Operations Response Unit responded and began surveillance of the vehicle. A short time later, the vehicle exited the driveway. As officers followed, the vehicle began to make evasive maneuvers. As the vehicle stopped, two occupants fled on foot. The passenger was captured after a brief foot pursuit and was placed under arrest. During this time, officers searched the vehicle, located two semi-automatic handguns hidden in the center console. Officers pursued the driver on foot and gave chase into a wooded area. Officers from Pine Hill and Berlin assisted in the pursuit with their K-9 unit. Detectives were able to locate the suspect in the woods behind a residential area. He was taken into custody. Through the follow-up investigation, it was learned the vehicle was involved in a shooting in Philadelphia days prior. The handguns had been stolen out of Virginia. Congratulations.
Go ahead. Congratulations, Matt. Thanks. Congratulations, Sergeant. Thank you. Congratulations, John. Thank you. Congratulations, Dennis. Thanks.
Distinguished Unit Citation, Detective Sergeant Mario Straccolini, Detective Michael McDonald, Detective Daniel Ritz, Patrolman Gino Barone, and Patrolman Gregory Flynn. Also a citizen's commendation, Mr. Anthony Arce and Mr. Michael Thurston. On July 11, 2019, units were dispatched to the Heritage Store for the report of an armed robbery. Police communications advised responding officers that the suspect had fled on foot. Officers observed a male matching the description of the suspect walking along the Black Horse Pike. When the suspect saw the marked police units, he began running towards a nearby apartment complex. Officers caught up to the suspect. He was positively identified as the male from the robbery. He was transported to police headquarters. During the course of the investigation, it was learned the two store employees had thwarted the actions of the suspect, which resulted in no loss of cash proceeds. The actions of these brave citizens and whose efforts assisted in the response time in this case. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Gino. Congratulations, Greg. Congratulations, Danny. Congratulations, Sergeant.
Distinguished Unit Citation, Detective Sergeant Anthony Massey, Investigator Joseph Eden, Patrolman John Harland. On January 26, 2019, officers responded to the report of a male who assaulted his girlfriend and was now engaged in a fight while in possession of a knife. Upon arrival, officers could hear male voices yelling and arguing coming from the second floor of the home. The officer observed two males at the top of the staircase inside the home. The subjects were instructed to slowly make their way down the stairs. One of these subjects complied. The other male stepped out of view and emerged, again holding a large knife. The suspect refused to comply with officers and disappeared into another room, this time holding an infant child in one arm and the knife in the other hand. There were two additional children upstairs. Several officers responded to the scene to assist. The suspect was refusing to let the officers take the child and was threatening suicide by cop. After a significant time period elapsed, the officers were carefully able to negotiate with the suspect. He allowed the infant to be released to officers. He complied with orders to drop the knife and was taken into custody. All the children involved in this incident were recovered safely. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Joe. Congratulations, Sergeant.
Distinguished Unit Citation, Detective Brian Farrell and Detective Dennis Richards. On January 24th, 2020, officers were alerted by a middle school guidance counselor that a student was exchanging illicit photographs with a male from Pennsylvania. The juvenile was reportedly communicating with a male who she believed to be 15 years old. She had exchanged several explicit photos with the male. The juvenile had been threatened by the male subject to post explicit photos of her on social media if she ended the relationship. Detectives spoke to the victim and received a vital description of the male, including the name he was using. He claimed to be a 15-year-old, but admitted to being 19 or more than one occasion. Detectives conducted extensive research to identify the male. Using cell phone records and social media accounts, they identified the male who was living in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. Over the next 2 months, detectives applied for warrants and subpoenas of the suspect's social media accounts, exposing several photos and videos of young victims. A search warrant was granted for the male's home in Bucks County, and together with local detectives from Reading, Pennsylvania, the suspect was arrested in March of 2020. The perseverance and determination of the investigation led to a dangerous predator being arrested for unspeakable crimes against children. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Dennis. Well done. Thank you.
A distinguished unit citation, Sergeant Kevin Schultz, Sergeant Bernard Dougherty, Patrolman Joseph Thompson and K-9 Nico, Patrolman Thomas Sherman, Patrolman Gregory Flynn, Patrolman Dalton Smith, Patrolman Daniel Savati, and Patrolman Greg Padilla. On August 29, 2020, officers were conducting a criminal suppression operation in the area of Little Gloucester Road. During the operation, officers observed a vehicle traveling in a reckless manner. The vehicle entered the parking lot of the Wawa. Officers determined the vehicle had been stolen through a registration inquiry and followed the vehicle to a nearby apartment complex. Officers operating in plainclothes capacity monitored the vehicle. Officers attempted a high-risk vehicle stop, but the vehicle accelerated at a high rate of speed and a pursuit ensued. The pursuit was terminated to preserve the safety of the community. The vehicle was eventually located abandoned on State Street. A perimeter was established. Officers roving in the area located the suspect riding a bicycle he had stolen from the following motor vehicle pursuit. The suspect attempted to enter an apartment, but was met by officers. The male attempted to flee again on foot. However, due to the coordinated efforts of the officers, he was unable to evade officers and was taken into custody. As a result of the investigation, a stolen motor vehicle was recovered, which had been linked to commercial and residential burglaries in Bensalem Township, Pennsylvania. Congratulations.
Sit. Sit. Congratulations, Joe. Well done. Go. Congratulations. Go. Thanks. Well done. Thanks. Congratulations, Sarge. Well done. Congratulations, Greg. Well done. Congratulations, Dan. Well done.
Distinguished Unit Citation, Detective Nicholas Amendo, Patrolman Matthew Gray, and Patrolman John Harland. On February 3, 2020, officers were conducting a proactive patrol on Burling Cross Keys Road in the area of the Wawa convenience store. Officers observed a blue Acura drive around the parking lot several times and park in a remote location of the business. A short time later, a black Nissan was observed pulling up next to the Acura, and a narcotics transaction took place between the two individuals. After the suspected transaction, officers followed the vehicle and conducted a motor vehicle stop. The driver was arrested for possession of a controlled dangerous substance. The vehicle was towed to Gloucester Township Police Headquarters. The next day, a search warrant was executed in the vehicle. Officers located a large amount of U.S. currency and a loaded .45 caliber handgun in the trunk of the vehicle. Additional charges were filed against the driver for unlawful possession of a weapon and remanded to the Camden County Correctional Facility. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Matt. Well done. Thank you, Chief. Congratulations, Nick. Well done. Thanks.
Award of Merit, Patrolman Brian Turchi. Distinguished Unit Citation, Sergeant Matthew Crabtree, Detective Sergeant Anthony Massey, Detective Nicholas Amendo, Detective Thomas Ritz, and Patrolman Michael Presworski. On March 10, 2019, officers were conducting crime suppression operations in the area of the Black Horse Pike in Blackwood. They observed a vehicle traveling at a high rate of speed exiting the Howard Johnson Hotel. A motor vehicle stop was conducted on Route 42. After requesting the driver's credentials, the officers noticed a black handgun magazine in the glove compartment of the vehicle. The driver was removed from the vehicle and informed the officer that there was a handgun located under the driver's seat of the car. The driver was arrested and transported to headquarters. Officers conducted a follow-up investigation at the hotel, located a female who was refusing to leave the premises. Upon clearing this room, officers located a loaded handgun and additional magazines. Officers determined the parties were involved in prostitution. The individuals were charged with prostitution as well as weapon offenses. These targeted crime suppression operations are just one of the many ways the Gloucester Township Police Department will remain committed to making this community a safe place for all who reside here. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Brian. Well done. Congratulations, man. Well done. Congratulations, Mike. Well done. Congratulations, Sergeant. Well done. Thanks. Congratulations, Tom. Well done. Thanks.
Merit Award, Detective Nicholas Amendo and Investigator Joseph Eden. Between 2018 and 2019, the state of New Jersey as well as Gloucester Township saw a high increase in the illegal production and use of counterfeit bills. Detective Nicholas Amendo was assigned as the primary detective to investigate the counterfeit bill incidents. Detective Amendo began to network with outside agencies to obtain additional information, compiling a list of counterfeit bills and serial numbers being used. In early December 2019, Investigator Joseph Eden was off duty at a local store when he heard an employee call for the manager to report two males attempting to use a counterfeit $100 bill. Aware of the recent information Detective Amendo had disseminated to the department about the increased use of these bills, Investigator Eden advised the manager to call 911 to report the incident. Investigator Eden exited the business and was able to obtain a license plate number from the car the suspects were observed entering. Detective Amendo, along with other officers, responded to the area, attempting to stop the suspect vehicle. After a brief pursuit, the suspects were detained. A search of the car revealed nearly $3,000 in fraudulent bills, a large quantity of marijuana, and drug paraphernalia. The Secret Service advised the subjects arrested in this case were involved in gang activity in high-profile cases in New Jersey and Philadelphia, involving drugs and firearms and money laundering. The extreme dedication of Detective Amendo and Officer Eden resulted in 4 convicted felons being removed from the community. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Nick. Well done. Congratulations, Joe. Well done. Thank you.
Award of Merit, Detective Nicholas Amendo. On December 28, 2018, then Patrolman Amendo was on patrol as a member of the Operations Response Unit. Patrolman Amendo conducted a motor vehicle stop after observing a vehicle failing to maintain proper lanes at approximately 80 miles per hour. Patrolman Amendo conducted a thorough investigation, and ultimately 77 vials of cocaine and $1,200 U.S. currency was seized for asset forfeiture. The occupants of the vehicle were charged with CDS distribution and a first-degree charge of leader of a narcotics network. Patrolman Amendo should be commended for his intelligent police work. In looking beyond the motor vehicle stop, his actions were resulting in the removal of a large amount of a controlled dangerous substance from within the community. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Nick. Well done.
Award of Merit, Detective Nicholas Amendo. On December 13, 2018, Patrolman Amendo was conducting an enhanced proactive patrol in the area of Berlin Cross Keys Road. Patrolman Amendo initiated a motor vehicle stop for an equipment violation. As he approached the vehicle, he observed the occupants moving about the vehicle. He immediately detected the odor of marijuana emanating from the vehicle. A search of the vehicle was conducted. During the search, officers located a loaded firearm, high-capacity magazines, and a large quantity of marijuana. Several ski mask-style head covers were located. All 4 occupants of the vehicle were arrested and charged accordingly, 3 of which were known gang members. The following day, Willingboro police detectives contacted Gloucester Township Police regarding the motor vehicle stop and advised that 2 of the subjects involved were suspected in gang-related homicides. This is another example of excellent proactive police work by Gloucester Township police officers. Congratulations.
Congratulations again, Nick. Thanks. Well done.
Award of Merit, Detective Brian Farrell and Agent Stephanie Fitzgerald. On September 16, 2019, officers and detectives responded to Yorkshire Court for a report of gunshots being fired in the area of the park. Upon officer arrival, they located shell casings in the area. Video surveillance cameras in the area revealed a dark-colored sedan leaving the scene, as well as numerous juveniles in the area just before the shots were fired. Detectives followed up with several juvenile witnesses. They were able to get a better description of the vehicle and the driver. Investigators used several databases to locate both the car and the driver. Through diligent investigation, they found a vehicle registered to an individual whom also owned a handgun matching the caliber of the one used to fire the shots in the park. The suspect was taken into custody and questioned by Gloucester Township police detectives. Ultimately, the suspect confessed to firing 4 to 5 shots in the direction of the juveniles at the park. He was charged with attempted homicide and various weapon offenses. Investigators not only located this subject using all available technology, but also secured a confession ensuring this dangerous individual was off the streets. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Stephanie. Very well. Great job.
Award of Merit, Patrolman Matthew Gray. On July 28, 2019, officers from the Operations Response Unit were conducting a proactive patrol in the area of Sicklerville Road. Patrolman Gray observed the silver Nissan Sentra commit a traffic violation and conducted a motor vehicle stop. Patrolman Gray identified the driver and passenger and observed possible drug paraphernalia in the vehicle in plain sight. The occupants consented to a search of the vehicle and were removed. The occupant was found in possession of drug paraphernalia and placed under arrest. While the subjects were secured, Patrolman Gray searched the vehicle. He located a loaded .38 caliber revolver, a quantity of methamphetamine, and drug paraphernalia. As a result of Patrolman Gray's careful interview tactics and observations, these subjects were charged and remanded to Camden County Jail. The removal of these items could possibly have prevented someone from being the victim of a violent crime. Congratulations.
Congratulations, man. Thanks, Chief. Well done.
Award of Merit, Detective Michael McDonald and Investigator David Vanoni. On November 8, 2019, police were dispatched to Commerce Square for the report of 2 male subjects on the roof of the complex. Officers arrived and observed a U-Haul truck parked in the front of the complex unoccupied. The officers accessed the roof and made contact with one of the subjects, who identified himself as an employee of the water company. The males were unable to produce any identification, and officers became immediately suspicious. The water company advised the officers they had no men working at that location. After searching the truck parked out front, officers located several partially disassembled air conditioning units and a large amount of copper coils. The subjects were arrested and charged with theft and trespassing. Detectives launched a multi-jurisdictional investigation into several other copper thefts in the area. They were able to connect these suspects to copper theft in Voorhees Township with damages in excess of $1 million. These subjects were apprehended a few days later while in the process of burglarizing additional air conditioning units in Gloucester Township. The hard work and dedication of the detectives and investigators in this case resulted in the disruption of a dangerous serial theft crew. Congratulations.
Congratulations, David. Well done. Thanks.
Award of Merit, Patrolman Eddie Radden. On September 18, 2019, Patrolman Radden conducted a motor vehicle stop of a vehicle whose occupants were not wearing a seatbelt. As the officer approached the driver, asking for his credentials, the driver became belligerent, shouting at the officer. Patrolman Radden remained calm and professional. He acquired the driver's credentials. GTPD Communications advised him the individual had active warrants out of the Camden County Sheriff's Office. He had the driver exit the vehicle, and he was placed in handcuffs. Officers and K-9 conducted a search of the vehicle. The search yielded narcotics and drug paraphernalia and a large knife. Patrolman Radden is to be commended on his diligent patrol tactics that led to the seizure of over 3 ounces of crack cocaine with a street value of over $10,000. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Eddie. Well done.
Award of Merit, Investigator Douglas Wallace. On January 14, 2019, while on patrol, Officer Wallace observed a vehicle making abrupt maneuvers and pulling into a convenience store parking lot. Alerted by the vehicle's sudden movement, Patrolman Wallace pulled into a nearby parking lot to observe the vehicle. Officer Wallace initiated a motor vehicle stop after several minutes of observing suspicious activity from the driver. While obtaining the driver's credentials, he observed a text message of the subject's phone detailing narcotic activity. He removed the subject from the vehicle. Upon receiving consent, Patrolman Wallace performed a search of the vehicle and located a purse containing 329 bags of heroin and numerous items used to package narcotics. The operator was charged with distribution of CDS and various other drug-related charges. Patrolman Wallace's experience to look beyond the initial motor vehicle infraction resulted in the arrest of the individual in close proximity to a nearby park and elementary school. On February 27, 2019, Investigator Wallace stopped a vehicle that matched the description of an earlier suspicious vehicle during call for service. While attempting to identify the operator and his passenger, Investigator Wallace observed both occupants were nervous and hesitant with their actions. After a brief struggle, Investigator Wallace was able to remove the passenger from the vehicle. While removing the driver, Investigator Wallace observed the subject in custody moving erratically. Officers searched the male, and he was in possession of a loaded handgun concealed in his pants leg. He was attempting to discard the weapon. The subject was charged with weapon and drug offenses, including possession of a stolen property, as the loaded gun was discovered to be stolen. Officer Wallace is to be commended for the recovery of the stolen handgun and the arrest of a dangerous felon. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Doug. Well done. Thank you, sir.
Award of Merit, Patrolman Craig Walsh. On August 21, 2019, Patrolman Craig Walsh was completing a crime suppression operation in the area of the North Black Horse Pike in response to a high volume of criminal activity in the area. Patrolman Walsh observed a suspicious male fleeing from an alley near a hotel while grasping a large amount of U.S. currency in his hand. The subject was observed to enter the passenger side of a waiting vehicle in the parking lot. Patrolman Walsh immediately activated his unmarked patrol vehicle's emergency lights and completed a traffic stop. The two male occupants were extremely nervous, speaking to the officer as he stood in the area of the open passenger side door. He detected the strong odor of marijuana. While questioning the suspects, the driver started the vehicle and accelerated the car in reverse at a fast pace. Patrolman Walsh was pinned partially in the vehicle with his legs dragging outside the vehicle as the subjects reversed erratically around the parking lot. The vehicle crashed into a tree. The suspects then assaulted and injured Officer Walsh, who was luckily able to escape the vehicle and hold the suspects at gunpoint until backup officers arrived at the scene. Upon their arrest, the suspects were charged with several drug-related charges, including possession and distribution, as well as assault on a law enforcement officer. Patrolman Walsh, despite being seriously injured during this incident, was able to survive this event while ensuring two extremely dangerous individuals did not escape. Patrolman Walsh is a true testament to the core values of the Gloucester Township Police Department. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Craig. Well done.
A Merit Award, Detective Scott Obermeyer and Camden County Prosecutor's Office Detective Jeremy Jankowski. On October 23, 2019, police responded to Yorkshire Road in Sicklerville for a report of multiple gunshots. Several residents called 911 and reported that a victim had been shot and that several suspects were running down the street. Officers arrived and confirmed that a young male victim had been shot multiple times and was pronounced and deceased on the scene. Detectives from Gloucester Township and investigators from the Camden County Prosecutor's Office Homicide Unit responded to the scene. Investigators found shell casings in the home. It was revealed that the incident was a home invasion robbery committed by 3 male suspects wearing masks and that one was armed with a handgun. As the investigation continued, the detectives conducted several interviews, reviewed video surveillance footage, did social media research, and executed several search warrants. As a result of this comprehensive investigation, it was determined that the ex-girlfriend of the decedent had hired several males with the intention to rob him as part of a revenge plot. The female and the male who shot and killed the victim were arrested and charged with murder and burglary. This investigation resulted in dangerous individuals being removed from the community. Investigators are commended for their efforts in this case. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Scott. Well done. Thank you. Congratulations, Jeremy. Well done. Thank you, sir. Yep.
Award of Merit, Patrolman Brian Turchi. On June 3rd, 2020, Patrolman Turchi observed a black GMC Envoy traveling on Shoes Landing Road toward Summerdale Road. The vehicle made several erratic maneuvers, and Patrolman Turchi initiated a motor vehicle stop. Patrolman Turchi initially interviewed the driver and noticed his demeanor and language was indicative of a subject who was lying and trying to be deceiving. After gathering his information, Patrolman Turchi returned to his patrol vehicle to investigate. He discovered that the male had a history of narcotics arrests. Patrolman Turchi returned to the vehicle and observed a billy club-style weapon concealed between the driver's seat and door. He also inquired about an empty holster he could see in the back seat. The male became evasive with his answers, and officers conducted a search of the vehicle. Officers located a loaded shotgun, a BB gun, large knives, and brass knuckles, and approximately 8 grams of methamphetamine. The suspect was arrested and charged with multiple weapons offenses and CDS offenses. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Brian. Well done. Thank you.
Life-Saving Award, Lieutenant Mark Benton and Patrolman John Bonelli. On August 1st, 2019, Gloucester Township Police received the report of a dwelling fire. Lieutenant Benton was one of the first officers on the scene. He observed heavy smoke and fire coming from the second floor of the dwelling. Lieutenant Benton proceeded to the rear of the residence to check for occupants or victims. He observed a person lying on the floor just inside the house. He immediately entered the burning house, secured the 70-year-old woman, and safely removed her from the house. Upon exiting the home, Patrolman John Bonelli assisted Lieutenant Benton in carrying the unconscious female down a large flight of stairs from the rear wooden deck. Both officers moved the victim away from the burning residence. Patrolman Bonelli used his years as a trained emergency medical technician, administered a breathing tube without hesitation into the victim's airway to assist with breathing. The victim was transported to the hospital, where she was released after several days and expected to make a full recovery. Lieutenant Benton was also treated for smoke inhalation. Despite the harrowing conditions before them, the officers' quick and decisive actions saved the life of this grateful residence. Congratulations.
John, congratulations. Well done.
Life-Saving Award, Sergeant Gerard Bobrick and Patrolman Gregory Flynn. On September 9th, 2019, officers responded to a report that a 67-year-old male had suffered a possible heart attack and was not breathing. Upon officers' arrival, they were met with the victim's wife, who advised her husband had collapsed in the rear yard. Officers located the victim and immediately began to administer CPR. The officers utilized the automated external defibrillator to deliver multiple shocks to the victim's heart. After over 2 minutes of these life-saving measures, paramedics arrived and transported the male to the hospital. He was last reported in a stable condition and is expected to make a full recovery. The immediate response and actions of these officers were essential in the survival of this grateful resident. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Greg. Well done.
Life-Saving Award, Sergeant Adam Alano, Investigator Douglas Wallace, and Patrolman Craig Walsh. On February 2nd, 2019, police responded to the Sicklerville section of the township for the report of a 51-year-old male who had collapsed and was no longer breathing. Police arrived and found the victim lying unresponsive. They immediately began to administer CPR. The officers provided the man with high-flow oxygen and set up the automated external defibrillator, or AED. The victim began to visibly regain color to his face and began breathing again. The officers located a pulse and monitored the semi-conscious male until BLS and paramedics arrived on location and took over treatment of the victim. The male was transported to Jefferson Hospital, Washington Township, where he was reported to be stabilized, conscious, and alert. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Craig. Well done. Congratulations, Doug. Well done.
Police Service Citation, Sergeant Frank Pace and Special Officer Ryan Andrick. In early summer 2020, Gloucester Township Police received the report of the occupants of a vehicle pointing a black revolver at 2 females as they were traveling through the park. On June 9th, 2020, officers observed the same vehicle parked outside a residence in Sicklerville. The resident who lived in this home was possibly involved in known criminal activity throughout the township. Officers arrived on the scene and approached the exiting passenger of the vehicle. The subject attempted to flee into the home, and the officer became involved in a physical altercation with the subject. As the fight progressed, the subject attempted to discard a loaded firearm. Officers secured the firearm as the struggle continued. officers were able to eventually place the subject under arrest. Officers are to be commended for their observation of the vehicle and also resolving this incident without any injury to any civilians at the scene or any of the officers involved. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Sergeant. Well done.
Police Service Citation, Investigator Joseph Eden. On July 10th, 2019, Investigator Eden was conducting proactive patrol operations in the Y Oak development due to vehicle burglaries that had been occurring in the area. Investigator Eden was able to develop a time frame these burglaries were occurring and had descriptions of the suspect and suspect vehicle due to purchases at a local Wawa with a stolen credit card. Investigator Eden observed the suspect vehicle at the Wawa on Berlin Cross Keys Road. He attempted to stop the vehicle, which disabled its lights and took off at a high rate of speed. The vehicle entered a nearby residential neighborhood, and the 4 occupants of the vehicle fled on foot. Located in the vehicle were proceeds from the vehicle burglaries and CDS paraphernalia. The investigation was then turned over to the Gloucester Township Investigations Bureau. Multiple follow-ups were conducted, which led to the identification and arrest of the driver. The teamwork and patrol diligence of the officers resulted in numerous vehicle burglaries being solved and put a halt to a crime spree that had been occurring. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Joe. Well done. Thank you.
Police Service Citation, Patrolman Jonathan Smith. On November 2nd, 2019, a theft of wiring occurred from an electrical business in the Sicklerville section of the township. Patrolman Smith started his shift and began immediately attempting to identify the vehicle in question, as well as any possible suspects. Patrolman Smith began a search of the automated license plate reader database. During his search, he located a vehicle matching the description of the suspect and noticed it had been in the area a short time before the theft occurred. A possible suspect was identified out of Williamstown. Working closely with the Monroe Township Police Department, Patrolman Smith learned the vehicle in question was a work vehicle operated by a male subject with a history of burglary and theft offenses. The information discovered by Patrolman Smith was distributed to officers. The next day, the subject was brought to headquarters where he provided a full confession to detectives. If not for the persistent work of Patrolman Smith, the investigation may not have been solved in the expeditious manner it was. His commitment to ensuring the subject responsible will be brought to justice is a credit to the Gloucester Township Police Department and the community we serve. Congratulations.
Congratulations, John. Well done.
Thanks, sir. I would like to now invite Chief David Harkins up to present the special awards.
Thank you, Deputy Chief. It's my great honor now to recognize those employees that we consider to be the special award winners. Every year we recognize an officer, a special police officer, a dispatcher, a officer, and a supervisor of the year. And every year this is a great honor, and it's very difficult. These officers are nominated, these employees are nominated by their peers and their supervisors, and it's often very difficult to choose from all the great police officers, the great supervisors, the great dispatchers, and great special officers that we have. So it's a great honor for us. This year I'd like to start off by announcing our Special Officer of the Year. So I'd ask Special Officer Jacob Hunt to come forward. Special Officer Jacob Hunt comes from a family of law enforcement. His father is a retired major from the New Jersey State Police, and he is a graduate of Triton High School, graduated in 2017. He was hired as a Class 1 Special Law Enforcement Officer in April of 2018 by the Gloucester Township Police Department. In addition to his service as a special officer, Jake also has been a junior handler for the Tri-State Canine Crisis Response Team since 2015. He currently attends Rowan University and is pursuing a degree in engineering. Some things that were said about Jake. Jake has been considered attentive to detail. He's always represented the Gloucester Township Police Department at special community events. He interacts with children and members of the community in an outstanding manner. And he always volunteers for special assignments and comes through with any task that he's dealt. Jake is currently used to train new special officers. So it was with great recommendation from Lieutenant Tim Kohlmeyer and other supervisors that Jake was recommended to be Special Officer of the Year. He's always been dependable, and he represents exactly what we expect of a Gloucester Township Special Law Enforcement Officer. So I'd like to congratulate Special Officer for 2019, Class 1 Special Officer Jacob Hunt.
Congratulations, Chief. Thanks, Chief. Well done.
It's my honor to call forward Dispatcher of the Year, Kevin Ritz. Kevin serves also as a Class 1 Special Officer and has done so since 2013 for the Gloucester Township Police Department. In 2014, he was hired as a full-time dispatcher. He currently is one of our most dependable dispatchers, and he's used to train all new dispatchers that come in. Kevin also serves his community of Magnolia as a captain with the Magnolia Fire Company. His supervisor, Sergeant Katz, wrote of him, "Kevin's customer service skills do not go unnoticed. He is one of the kindest people I know, and he always arrives to work early with a smile, ready to work. He communicates effectively and is always ready to assist others." Kevin has always been there for me. I've always relied on his advice. When the COVID-19 pandemic struck, he was one of those dispatchers who was assembled as part of our emergency response planning. And he is always there for me to know what's going on in our dispatch center. I know the officers are very relieved when they hear Dispatcher Ritz on the radio because he brings a calm, serene tone and keeps things under control. Kevin has made a difference at our department. He has positively impacted the officers, other dispatchers, and most importantly, the citizens and the community of Gloucester Township. It's my honor to present Dispatcher Kevin Ritz with the 2019 Dispatcher of the Year Award. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Kevin. Well done. Thank you. Okay.
It's my great honor to introduce the 2019 Gloucester Township Police Officer of the Year, Investigator Joseph Eden. A little bit about Joe. He was hired as a police officer on January 3rd, 2011. He served his community as a volunteer firefighter for 5 years and as an EMT for 12 years. Investigator Eden has been a departmental and police academy trainer and instructor on CPR, AED, and first aid. Investigator Eden has previously served as a canine handler for 3 years, from 2015 to 2018, serving with Canine Cody and Canine Spike. In 2019, Investigator Eden took on the responsibilities as a field training officer and as a patrol shift investigator, and he has excelled in both of those roles. Investigator Eden works intensively both on duty and off duty to represent the Gloucester Township Police Department with other agencies and organizations. Just some of the highlights of his performance in 2019 include negotiating an armed suspect to drop a knife, taking down a shoplifting crew targeting retail stores, identifying and charging a significant fraud ring suspect, assisting the Monroe Township Police Department with a car theft ring, investigation of car thefts leading to multiple arrests. He has seized stolen weapons on car stops and investigations. He's performed CPR on a teenager, saving the teenager's life. He led investigations into counterfeiting and drug distribution. And these are just some of the parts of the significant investigations and incidents that Investigator Eden has been part of. It's his work ethic every day that he comes to work. He's a team player, and he always shares his knowledge, experience, and drive with younger officers. He's a highly decorated and respected officer in the department, and he's a significant team player of the Gloucester Township Police Department. It's my honor to award Police Officer of the Year for the year 2019 to Investigator Joseph Eden. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Joe. Well done. Thank you, Chief. Thank you, sir.
Nice.
It's my great honor to introduce the Gloucester Township Police Department Supervisor of the Year for the year 2019 to Detective Sergeant Anthony Massey. Detective Sergeant Massey's had a long career here, distinguished career here. He's previously served as a Class 1 Special Law Enforcement Officer. He was hired as a police officer on January 14, 2010, and he was appointed a shift investigator and field training officer while on patrol, and has always been respected as a hardworking, dedicated officer. Detective Sergeant Massey has served as a crisis negotiator since 2015 and has proven himself as a trusted member when responding to crisis situations. Anthony was promoted to sergeant on July 11, 2018. Upon my promotion to chief, I appointed Detective Sergeant Massey to the Investigations Bureau as the Deputy Commander on November 5, 2019. This appointment has been significant, and he has shown that he is a trusted member of my staff. His Bureau Commander, Lieutenant Jim Shriver, nominated Detective Sergeant Massey and has recognized him for his work ethic and leadership skills, both as a patrol deputy platoon commander and as the Investigations Bureau Deputy Commander. Anthony is a second-generation Gloucester Township police officer, the son of retired Detective Tony Massey. His transformational leadership skills have been recognized, and this award is one of the most difficult to receive in our department, as we have many outstanding leaders throughout our department. Detective Sergeant Massey was previously awarded the Officer of the Year award in 2014. So this award is also a historical event for us, as it is the first time that a member of the Gloucester Township Police Department will receive the Supervisor of the Year award after also being previously awarded the Officer of the Year award. It's my great honor to present the 2019 Supervisor of the Year award to Detective Sergeant Anthony Massey. Congratulations.
Congratulations, sir. Well done. Thanks, sir. Appreciate it.
At this time, it's my great honor to introduce the Mayor of Gloucester Township, David Mayer, for a few words. Mr. Mayor?
Well, thank you, Chief Harkins, Monsignor Mannion, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Today is a very proud day for our community of Gloucester Township as we recognize and honor police officers, dispatchers, teachers, citizens of our community that have gone beyond the call of duty. I want to first congratulate all of you who have received this recognition this afternoon. But more importantly than that, I want to say thank you. Thank you for your service to our Gloucester Township community. On behalf of our town council and the citizens of Gloucester Township, I again congratulate you and thank you for that service. Now, there are many ways that we can serve. There are different levels of service. But when you put your life on the line, that is the highest level of service. And that is what we have seen here this afternoon. And we've heard stories of bravery, dedication. We've heard stories about dogged determination to solve crimes and to prevent crime. That is really the men and women of the Gloucester Township Police Department. I want to specifically acknowledge and congratulate Police Officer of the Year Investigator Joe Eden, Police Supervisor of the Year Detective Sergeant Anthony Massey, Police Dispatcher of the Year, Kevin Ritz, and Special Officer of the Year, Jacob Hunt. Congratulations on being chosen by your peers because of your leadership. Now, the Chief mentioned in his opening remarks, we're living in very unprecedented times. None of us have been through this. But I can tell you, over the last 8 months, the Gloucester Township Police Department did not miss a beat. And Chief Harkins, I want to thank you and your leadership and your command staff for the leadership that you have shown. You certainly were tossed into this role very quickly, and certainly I appreciate that leadership. So on behalf of our entire community, I thank the men and women of the Gloucester Township Police Department for putting on the uniform of a police officer, leaving your families to protect our families. That service, the highest level of service, certainly doesn't go unnoticed. Congratulations to all of those that have received recognition today, and once again, thank you.
All, please rise as Monsignor Mannion delivers the benediction.
Two words crossed my mind several times in the last hour plus. One word is sacrifice. It comes from two Latin words, sacra facere, to make sacred, to make sacred. Something is made sacred when one's survival is not as important as another's life. When one is able to sacrifice perhaps one's own life for the survival of another. And since we're made in God's image and likeness, sacrifice, sacra facere, is very special. The other word is influence. Human behavior, psychologists tell us, can be influenced by two things. Number one, it can be manipulated, or number two, it can be inspired. Definitely today, human behavior has been influenced by inspiration, shown by those who receive these awards and what they have done to deserve them. Let us pray. Lord our God, this afternoon we've witnessed the stories of a variety of needs, diversity of crises, unanimity of purpose, and very often courageous response. Individuals were honored, but it reminds us that none of us have it all together, but together we have it all. Because we operate as a community, a law enforcement family, not looking just at each other, but looking outward to serve those with needs and struggles and crises and problems. So, Lord, bless all those today who made this experience possible by the culture of the department, by the faith that underlies it, and by the vision that leads it. May we always, Lord, as we seek to channel pain and sacrifice into purpose, may we always act justly, love tenderly, and walk humbly with you, our God. God bless. Congratulations. Be safe.
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes tonight's ceremony. On behalf of Chief David Harkins and all the officers of the Gloucester Township Police Department, we thank you for attending this year's virtual award ceremony. Have a great day.